In this video, you're going to look at transformations. So we're going to talk about two types of transformations in the linear parent function. The parent function is the original graph of the function before you apply transformations. So our linear parent function for linear equations is going to be f of x equals x. And remember that f of x is function notation for y equals x. They are the same exact equation. So when you look at the linear parent function on a graph, you're going to notice that it goes through the origin and the slope is positive 1. There's a 1 in front of the x, so it's up 1, right 1. So the x and y intercepts on the graph are at 0, 0. Once you apply transformations, you're going to learn today transformations are going to be moving up or down on your graph and left or right based on the notation. If you need more time, go ahead and pause the video. I'm going to go ahead and show you the rules for our transformations that we will learn for today. The rules that we will be looking at for our linear transformation are going to be a horizontal shift, horizontal translation, and you're going to notice the notation on the inside of our parentheses. So if we see plus 5, C is going to represent a value. So plus 5 would be shifting my graph horizontally to the left. If I see minus 5, it's going to be shifting horizontally to the right 5 units. So C is going to be a value, and the notation will be on the inside of the parentheses to the parent function. If we see a vertical shift is moving up or down. A vertical translation is the same thing. So if we move up the graph, we're going to see a plus D. In this case, D is going to be a value. So if you see a plus 5 on the outside of the parentheses, it's going to move our graph up 5 units. So up D units is the D is going to be a value. If you see minus on the outside of the parentheses, it's going to move your graph down so many units. So minus D minus 5 is going to move our graph down 5 units. So if the value is on the inside of the parentheses, this is a helpful hint to remember by the end of the lesson, the graph will move right if you see a minus sign or left if you see a plus sign. It's the opposite sign of what's inside the parentheses. If the value is on the outside of the parentheses, the graph is going to be moving up, and it's the same exact sign, or down based on the sign. So if you see a plus sign on the outside of the parentheses, it's moving up. If you see a minus sign on the outside of the parentheses, it's going to move down. And the reason for the opposite sign on the inside of the parentheses is because we're applying it to the x values. On the outside, we're applying it to the y values. So let's go ahead and look at some examples. If you need more time to write this down, pause the video. I'm going to move on to some examples. In this example, the directions say that we are going to describe the transformation that maps f of x to g of x. I'm going to go ahead and zoom in a little. So you want to recognize that the parent function is our f of x here, and it's going through the origin, 0, 0. Our slope is 1, and the x and y intercepts are at the origin, 0. The new graph is going to be g of x. So right here, the description is giving us g of x equals f of x plus 5. So you want to recognize, where is my plus 5? Is it on the inside or the outside? If you notice that it's on the outside, you want to go back and look at your rules. If it's on the outside, it's moving up or down. So when it moves up or down, we call it a vertical translation. And since it is plus 5, we are moving up 5 units. So vertical translation, up 5 units because it's on the outside. In our next example, we have g of x equals f of x minus 1. I'm going to move my paper up so we can look at this one. Again, notice that on the outside of the parentheses, this is a new equation, So it's applying it to the function, the parent function. So if it's on the outside, we know it's a vertical translation. And because it's a -1, it's going to move my graph down 1. So on the outside, it moves my graph up or down. And it's a vertical translation because it's moving up or down. In the next example, we have g of x equals f of x minus 4. So again, remember this isn't multiplication. If it's on the inside of my parentheses, I need to recognize that it's moving my graph horizontally left or right. If it's on the inside this time, it's the opposite sign. So because it's moving left or right, it's a horizontal translation. And because it's on the inside, we say it's moving the opposite. So if I see a -4 on the inside, I need to recognize it's moving right 4 units. If you need more time, go ahead and pause the video. I'm going to move on to the next few examples, but you can refer to your notes to identify if it's on the inside of the parentheses, it's moving right or left, so we call it a horizontal translation. And because it's on the inside of the parentheses, you use the opposite sign to identify where it's moving. Well, if it says a -4, we're moving right 4. In the next example, you have g of x equals f of x plus 7. So again, it's on the inside of the parentheses, so I know it's a horizontal translation. Because it's on the inside, it's a plus 7. I need to identify this as the opposite. So if it's plus 7, I'm moving left 7 units. In the last 2 examples, I'm going to go ahead and write it out because there are more than one transformation. So in example number 5, I'm going to go ahead and start from left to right when I apply my transformations. So it says g of x equals f of x plus 2 on the inside, minus 3 on the outside. So again, let's identify what the plus 2 on the inside tells me. The plus 2 on the inside tells me it's a horizontal translation left or right. And because it's on the inside and it says plus 2, I'm moving the opposite. So if it's plus 2, I'm moving left 2. So left 2 units. Now we need to apply the transformation with the minus 3 on the outside. So there's 2 transformations here. So one of them is a horizontal translation, left 2 units. And now that I see this minus sign, on the outside, it's a vertical translation. That means it's moving up or down. If it's a vertical translation, it's moving my graph down 3 units. So we need to recognize when there's 1 transformation and 2 transformations. In the last example, I have g of x equals f of x minus 1, close parentheses, plus 4 on the outside. Again, if it's on the inside, I know it's a horizontal translation, and it's moving my graph left or right. Well, if it's on the inside, I use the opposite. So if I see a minus 1, it's moving right 1 unit. 1 unit. This plus 4 on the outside is telling me it's a vertical translation because I'm moving my graph up or down. So if it's on the outside, it's the true sign, so I know I'm moving up 4 units. And again, because this is a transformation applying to the y values, this is a transformation applying to the x values. The x values on a graph are moving left or right. The y values on a graph are moving up or down. Go ahead and try some examples on your own.